right, guys. Welcome to our fifth. Is this the fifth episode, JT?
Five. Yep.
Fifth
hmm
episode of the Ancient Angels podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about some crazy stuff. And of course, as always, we always talk about crazy, weird stuff on the show.
Yeah,
This is
unlike the
fun
other
part.
episodes where we talked about completely normal things.
Yeah, completely. This is where we're unleashing, bro. I'm unleashing on this thing. I'm just like letting all the genetic anomalies come out. Because why not? Let's just talk. Let's get it out there because people need to know about this stuff.
hmm
Anyways, today we're going to be talking about the dog-headed men. Are you ready for this, JT?
Yeah, look, I said I even got my shirt on.
Love it.
Ancient Angels shirt. I've been
We're
wearing
gonna.
this thing for a few months, but yeah, I was like, hey, we're doing the podcast. Let's wear this thing. It's kind of nice color. It's kind of got the same JT's mixed, or the JT's follows JC. The Jesus said there would be haters color. I
I
like it.
love it. Yeah, I love it. We'll have to put those out on the store here soon. And
For sure.
yeah. So today we're gonna start getting some really weird, and I'm gonna start off this really weird thing because again, this is a Nephilim-esque subject, but I'm gonna tell you something you probably haven't heard about. Again, as always, I got to surprise you with some information. The Amalekites. Did you know that in Jewish lore, the Amalekites were actually able to transform as shapeshifters? Did you know that?
I did not know that. No, I mean I
So
didn't hear
this
that.
is this is actually in Jewish tradition. In the Talmud, they actually believe that the Amalekites were shapeshifters. Like I'm just gonna read it to you. Look at this. The Talmud explained the goal of the Amalekites was to annihilate the children of Israel through protected whatever warfare. The Amalekites were described as shape shifting sorcerers who were able to transform into animals. Do you see this? This is in the Talmud's study notes, bro. This is like study.com.
That's weird. When I'm curious, like when that book was written. Because
The
it's not
Talmud
it.
stuff, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
obviously that's not something that Josephus ever talked about.
Well, not necessarily, not directly for sure, but he did mention animal human hybrid
Oh
things.
yeah, for
So
sure. I just mean because obviously that seems like kind of an omission, like in the Bible, that story where they could change into dogs.
yeah,
Um,
Amalekites have the power to transform into animals. They're Wendigos, bro. That's like what this is the Talmudic expression. This is what the Jewish tradition believes about them. Isn't that fascinating?
that's certainly interesting. That's interesting. I got some dog people anecdotes too. So I'm gonna save those
Okay.
for I'm
Oh,
gonna tease that now.
sure. So what? Well, did you know what about the dog people that my friend just told me about this too? By the way, so like I didn't know about this, so I was like reading and studying into it. But like the fascinating part is like the Amalekites. So the Wendigos. Have you heard about the Wendigos? The things that could transform. They're skinwalkers, rather Skinwalker Ranch, right?
Yeah, I definitely heard of Skinwalker Ranch, but what is a Wendigo compared to like a werewolf or something like that?
So Skinwalker or Wendigo is like the Native American tale of witches or warlocks or people that have the ability to transform into animals, and these animals would kidnap people. They would kidnap you, your children, and all
Always.
kinds of stuff. And so, and people go missing. So I got a buddy that I met up with actually, who's got a pretty big TikTok channel now. And we went looking for Wendigos. We went out into the middle and to look for skinwalkers and stuff. We went out in the middle of nowhere in the Arizona desert where it was, and we went up this mountain and found this abandoned place. It was pretty epic, actually. He's got on his channel. It was pretty funny.
Luckily,
Um,
you didn't find any.
we didn't find any, unfortunately. I was so bummed. I really wanted to
Unfortunately, I
find
was to say
some.
like, what would you do if you found them though?
Dude, I would have bound him in the name of Jesus. Like the
Well,
72. The 72 that came back and said, Jesus, Jesus, even the Daemon obey us. So
mm-hmm.
clearly the demons will obey you if you have the authority of Jesus. If I saw a
Okay.
Wendigo, if I saw a Skinwalker, I would be like no different than when I respond to demons. I would have zero, like, I literally would just be like, in the name of Jesus, you bow your knee now. I bind you. And like the thing would probably be like, like that's like, I want to go Bigfoot hunting. Okay. I really do. Anybody wants to go with me, message me. Like I'm so down. I'm so down. Let's go find the dogmen. I'm totally down. Like bring a gun too, of course, but I'm totally gonna bind it in the name of
Silver
Jesus.
bullets for
Silver
sure.
bullets. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, anyways, this is a very fascinating thing. So there's more to this than just the traditional understanding the Amalekites were not human. And this is important to understand this, okay? The Jewish perspective, because a lot of people are like, oh, who's a real Jew? Who's not a real Jew? Guys, everyone is human at this point. You have to understand that back then, at that time, the reason why Jesus was a son of man meant human. Son of man, son of man. That's what he kept saying. Meant he was a human. That's what that meant. Okay, it didn't mean he was something other than a human. He wasn't a son of God, even though he was the son of God. He wasn't a son of God's, which are not human things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they were Nephilim offspring hybrid things that mated with animals and humans, and that's why I was telling you about like Bigfoots and all that stuff. We're gonna do a whole episode on Bigfoot next, also. But the this stuff was all Nephilim offspring mutation, genetic perversion. Okay, and so the son of this is why the Israelites said that they were better than everyone else, and they would call people dogs. The Gentile, which is the word jinn, the Gentile, the descendants of jinn, the giant tiles is why we get the word giant from. Okay, giant tile, descendant of giants. Okay, the jinn, these are the offshoots that were the dogs or the pigs because they were hybridized with dogs and other animals. That was the genetic remnant. And there's a very famous verse that we'll bring up that everybody is like, wow, Jesus is really mean in Matthew. You know what I'm talking about?
This verse is, yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
Okay, let's read this. So Jesus did not, okay, it says, leaving the place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. Okay, so Tyre, again, mind you, is an area, it's a region that is potentially compromised with genetic perversion. I mean, the Prince of Tyre,
it's a corrupt city. It's where Lebanon is.
Yes, it's a very corrupt city. There's a lot of corruption. It says a Canaanite woman, which, by the way, a Canaanite. We'll go back to that word, actually. I'll just get back to it. A Canaanite woman, because Canaan is the old word for dog, for those that don't know. A Canaan is that means dog, a Canaan. And the oldest dog in the region, in that area, is called the Canaan dog. That's literally what it's called.
Pretty interesting.
And so Canaan means, it's a type of dog. It means dog. A Canaanite means a dog person. It means a dog type being, okay? A Canaanite woman from the vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon possessed and suffering terribly. Okay, so the Canaanite woman, she's Nephilim probably to some extent, has still dealing with demons possessing him, right? Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. Like, get this woman out of here, right? So, and he answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. Okay, so he wasn't coming directly to the Canaanites for a reason. Not yet. Okay, the woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. He replied, it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Now, everybody reads this verse. And in fact, Muslims read this verse. And this is part of the reason why they say the Bible is corrupt. I don't know if you know that. But the Muslims say the Bible is corrupt. This is one of the verses. They're like, Jesus would never call a woman a dog. And you're like, well, that is such a weird verse, right? Again, when you're coming across verses in the Bible and it makes you go, oh, that's really weird. You should probably pray on it and ask the Holy Spirit to give you understanding. Because you're not understanding fully what it is. Again, this woman's a Canaanite. She is a Canaanite. She is a dog woman. Okay, so when Jesus said, I came to the humans, is basically what he's saying, not necessarily to the dog women or the dog people. It was not right for the children. It says, it is not right to take the children's bread, which is healing and deliverance, and toss it to the dogs. Yes, it is, Lord. She said, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall on their master's table. Then Jesus said to her, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. Isn't that a fascinating story?
It's definitely a troubling, confusing verse. But I'll just push. I want to push back just a little bit.
Sure.
That not all Canaanites, I believe, were dog people, because what a Canaanite specifically was somebody in the line of Canaan, who was the son of Ham, he would have been the grandson of Noah. Now there's some interesting things about the story of Ham and Noah and Canaan, because Ham uncovered Noah's nakedness, which again I would say actually that might be something that's lost in translation. Where I think to uncover your father's nakedness is literally to sleep with your mom.
Yeah, your
And
mom
so
potentially.
that's
Yeah.
why it's really interesting that when
Mm-hmm.
Ham does something bad, he curses Canaan. What? Why? Like he curses his son. Like that is a weird
Mm-hmm.
thing, and it's kind of like it's really I don't know. It's really odd. And so obviously, if you think about like in the biblical villains, all come from Ham's line. You have Canaan, Egypt, Cush. I might be missing one or two
Og.
of them. So,
This come
yeah, but
from?
anyways, all those are kind of like who God's people are doing, having conflict with. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that being said, we do know that through in the land of Canaan there was giants, there was genetic corruption. So certainly there somewhere along the line of Canaan, things went off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, like, how to explain all the weirdness that what they encountered there?
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Well, there's something weird going on, and let me just share this with you. So, if you want to see the Canaan dog, check this out. The Canaan dog is the national dog of Israel. Okay, it's actually, from what I've read, yes, the Canaan dog is one of the oldest dog breeds, with its roots back to 22,200. Okay, so this is the Canaan dog, which looks kind of like the Dogecoin dog, by
I
the
was
way.
going to say it's like the
It's
Dogecoin.
Doge. It's
Yeah,
Doge,
like
bro.
yeah, like that's another interesting connection, right?
Oh yeah, it sure is. It's Doge for sure. If you type in Canaan dog, look, that's Doge. It's the Doge dog.
Mm.
Um, isn't that funny?
That I
So
mean
and
that is funny. I mean that's is that do people? I don't think anybody who listens to us believes in coincidences like that.
yeah, no, there's definitely something to this. Now, what did the woman at the well look like? Right? What did the woman at the well look like? Now, is it possible that she looked like this, bro? This is the woman at the well. Do you understand? Like, and now I know people are gonna be like, "What? This is crazy." She was a Canaanite, bro. She was dog woman, bro. Like she was from that lineage. Look at this guy. This guy's photo is just crazy. Like his skin looks like gorilla skin.
Oh my
It
gosh.
it doesn't look like normal skin, like how we have skin. Like it even has this weird skin deformity that you see on monkeys and gorillas. They have this weird skin overgrowth lesion thing. He's got that, bro, growing
Mm.
on his back. That right there is not a normal thing that you see very often on humans. But yeah, it's growing on his skin here. This is, and like most of the time, it only grows on people's faces. Oh, look at that background image. Isn't that
Yeah,
fascinating? That's a
that's one
very
thing.
fascinating background image, don't you think?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So but like this is stuff, dude. If you notice, look, this little girl, it's only growing on her face. Okay, it's only growing on her face. See this? So if you don't like these things, look at these guys. Their face is genetically different. Their noses are a little bit different and a little bit wider, a little bit flatter. And look at the way the hair grows. Like, and we're not picking on these people and saying they're freaks. Like Jesus saves everyone. Jesus said, preach this gospel to every creature. Okay. So it doesn't matter that these people look different, but you got to understand that the difference comes from something. It's not just some genetic deformity. Okay. This is genetic Canaanism. And notice it still grows mostly on their faces. Occasionally it will appear in other spots in their body, but it stays relatively to their face. And you got to
See,
be
that's
like,
so troubling.
yeah, but it is, but at the same time, it's also like you got to see it for what it is and like recognize that this is real. This is reality that we're dealing with. Okay? And so when you see this stuff, it's like disturbing to look at, but this is where it came from. Like this, way back in the day, dude. The wolf boy you heard of, okay? These are old drawings of these people. Okay? This is an old drawing of this guy.
I mean,
Again,
it looks straight up like Teen Wolf, like the movie
yeah.
Teen Wolf. Like that's what he looks like, right?
Yep, yep. And so like, dude, these are old drawings, old photos of these people. This is what this dude looked like, man. And we're forgetting that there were people that were like this. And when you don't realize that this is where we've come from, guys, like you're losing a huge portion of our reality. Okay, there's famous people back in the day that look like this that
You
have
think that
like
could be like a dude? I was just like, is that a Lion Man of Moab?
that is absolutely the Lion Man of Moab, bro. This
I
is
mean,
like
it's gosh, it looks like that dude looks like yeah, the Thundercats.
yes. And like look. And here's this, another one. We also called these people the wild men, okay? And look at they have these hairy people from these old drawings. Again, this is one of the things with hairy coats, heaven's wrath unto the kingdom of Dentox, whatever this is, thus born with hairy coats. So it says that these children of it says heaven's wrath unleashing onto these children that were born covered in hair. Okay, this is one of their beliefs, guys. This is the wild men. This is what they look like. They're like drawing this stuff because these things didn't exist. They didn't have cameras back then. Okay, so a lot of this stuff you only see in drawings, and you'll see these kind of depictions. And you're like, well, when they get in more detailed, you're like, you take these old photos and we're like, oh, they don't really exist. Yes, they did, dude. Look at these drawings. Look at this old stuff, bro. Look at these old paintings. You think they just painted this little prince with hair all over his face? Mind you, a lot of these people were from royal bloodlines, by the way. Like, look, Princess whatever with her royal highness hair face. This guy right here. Look at this. Look at this dude. Very famous dude. Also a king or something. I forget who he was specifically. But again, Nephilim offspring, Canaanite descendant. Okay.
Gosh, it's just so crazy. I mean, I guess the truth is that
look at this.
We've talked about this multiple podcasts recently about that. It's hard for us to even realize what the world used to be like because obviously you see pictures of this, and obviously based on what we're taught, the camera is like 200 years old. So we really don't know what the extent of this was back in biblical times. Like, I mean, you just have to just say straight up. But it is interesting how modern, people who call themselves Jews, like there is that kind of like we're God's chosen people, and the people who are not God's chosen people are less than us. And there's that idea of like the Goyim being like dogs. And I think it's kind of ironic the way that the racism egg always only goes one way as far as you're anti-Semitic. But then when you actually hear what they say and what they write and in the books they believe in, like the Talmud, not the Bible.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's really troubling that doesn't seem like they're allied with us.
No, they're definitely not your friend necessarily. And so this is an interesting thing. Okay. There's another name for werewolf syndrome. It's hypertrichosis, I think is anyway, so there's another name, but this is a funny thing. Newborn babies develop werewolf syndrome after drug mix up, bro. Like they started turning into this. What does that tell you? That you are so close to genetic Nephilimization than you realize. Okay. Like you can get a drug given to you and all of a sudden kick on a gene and you start growing hair all over your face. So now this is crazy because when you look at it, you're like, well, that's not me, except for the cynosyphyla. These people. This is, notice the hair is mostly only on the face. Why do you think the hair is on the face and not on anything else? Look at this. Again, on the face. Now, something else I want to point out in this old drawing. Notice the feet.
Yeah, I was going to say monkeys. I was going to say the feet look very odd.
They look like monkey feet, don't they? Isn't that fascinating?
A little bit, yeah.
That looks kind of like a baboon's face, not necessarily like a dog's face even. When you really look at it, you're like, huh, that's strange.
Yeah, and the baboon things. We mentioned the baboons were mummified by like the royals in Egypt.
Yes, absolutely.
Weird
stuff. Very strange.
Yeah, because a baboon is kind of like a dog monkey, right?
That's exactly what it is. And if you look up the word monkey, by the way, in Japanese, maybe I should type it in. The word Japanese for monkey is actually the word dog plus the word humanity. Did you know that? Isn't that fascinating? Dog plus humanity equals the word monkey in Japanese.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, looking at this stuff, you start to see that there is a lot of unusual things here. This is Jesus, okay, surrounded by dogs. Isn't there a prophecy about that? I saw Jesus surrounded by dogs, I think in Daniel or something. I think there's some prophecy about
Mm,
this.
oh no.
Yeah,
I know. I
there's
know
a
he's surrounded by bulls in Psalm 82. Oh, Psalm 22.
yeah, it says I saw the Son of Man surrounded by dogs. I think it was like a prophecy alluding to Jesus, and that's what this drawing is being depicted from. But it's a so like this depiction is Jesus, and these are the Roman centurions. Now, there's something I want to point out specifically. If you notice, they're always wearing armor. Look at this. So the dog-headed people tend to like to have armor. This one, they're not. He's fighting a person in armor. But like when you see these drawings of these dog-headed people, Christians, by the way, they're dog-headed Christians. A lot of them. Like this guy is what's his name? Saint Christopher.
Yeah, Saint Christopher. I always said that's one of those things. It's really, really weird. Like, why would they depict a saint with a dog head
Mixed in with the
unless
rest of them.
unless he had a dog head? Because I'd be pretty offended if I was ever depicted as a dog faced podcaster.
Well, no, you don't notice they changed it later on though. They changed it later on. They got rid of the
Well,
dog head later
supposedly,
on.
well, I think supposedly he
So a
was
lot of them were
healed.
painted over.
I thought he was actually healed. Wasn't that part of his story?
I don't know if he was healed. I don't recall anything about that, but that would be, interesting if he was.
Mm-hmm.
But this is fascinating. I want to point out something. Notice that these are the dog-headed people making, what does that look like to you? A golden
Um,
bull.
the
That's
dog people are making a golden calf.
They sure are. Why? Because these are Canaanites that worshipped Baal. So the
Hmm.
dog-headed people are making the golden calf. And this is depicted in the hieroglyphs. You see them in these things. There's obviously, we can talk about the dog-headed people in Egypt. Everybody knows about the, Anubis, right?
Yeah.
We've
Mm-hmm.
already talked, we'll maybe do another episode on Anubis and what that is exactly. But like here's,
Well, I mean,
again,
I would just say it's important to note that for an Anubis case, like dogs are all around that region in the Middle East are always referred to as like the lowest of the low. Dogs are not elevated in these societies. So it is
no,
interesting that they would present a god, and he's actually not. I don't think Anubis is ever like considered evil. He's one of the gods of. He's like the
God of the underworld.
he's one of the gods of the underworld. It's like he's like a he takes you on your journey to the underworld. I think to the ancient Egyptians. So yeah, like the idea that they're not. It's almost like this is just the way it was because they weren't referring to him as like a lowly person because he was, or a lowly god because he had a dog face. It just
Yeah.
he just had one.
And this is another one. I find it very interesting. This is a Siamese twin dog human. They're like convicted. They're like expressing that he's part dog and part man in some way, but the depiction, obviously the person didn't know, or maybe it was a Siamese conjoined twin individual,
Mm-hmm.
and then here's this. Notice that this is again Saint Christopher, but this is Jesus on Saint Christopher's shoulder in this old drawing. But notice how his nose and his mouth, he looks mostly human, but he looks kind of like a who. And he's got a red beard and
Mm-hmm.
red hair. And look at the small little people right here next to him. And this is him carrying him across the river. So this is Saint Christopher depicted as a red-haired giant. He's as tall as the tree. Okay? Notice
Yeah,
that.
I remember hearing a story about Saint Christopher. Yeah, carrying like a
Jesus.
what he
Yeah.
thought was a baby across the river,
Yep.
and it was actually Jesus, and he was bearing Christ.
Yep. Yep. And there he is again. Here he is carrying Jesus.
That's
but
that is some of the weirdest stuff. Like that's just bizarre.
but what I want to point out is if you notice a lot of these depictions, red-haired giant, dog man with armor and a spear or a shield, notice they always carry shields. And then they worship the goat. Like here's a depiction of them with the gold goats on their head. These are little goats. Okay? This is their goats. This is the depiction of the Canaanites. Here they are. This one's a very fascinating drawing because you see these guys right here, and these are like the Jews, I think, trying to kill these people, and they're begging these guys over here, like, what is going on with this, you know? And then we've got people here eating these are the dog people. When they got to America, they were eating the people. The dog-headed people were eating the humans, chopping them up. Okay, so this is some crazy stuff right here, right? And so we've got another depiction. What?
Do you want me to read what ChatGPT says about the story of the dog-headed saint?
Yeah, go for it.
It's pretty interesting. It says, according to some legends, Christopher was originally a fierce warrior from a distant land described as a cynocephalus. And it says, he was captured and baptized to become a devout Christian. He was used his immense strength and fearsome appearance to serve Christ, spreading the faith and performing acts of kindness. His transformation symbolizes redemption and the Christian message of salvation extending to all people. Modern interpretation says, the symbolic perspective. Some view the dog-headed depiction as a metaphor for the saint's transformation from a beastly state to a spiritual enlightened one. Historical curiosity says the legend reflects a medieval fascination with exotic peoples and the spread of Christianity into unfamiliar cultures. Yeah, so it said, but here's another interesting. It says, in most Western Christian art, Saint Christopher is depicted as a giant carrying the Christ child across a river, symbolizing his role as the patron saint of travelers. So that's interesting. I think that's what Anubis's role is, like, that he is like the traveler to the underworld. So like he takes the people to their destination, the underworld. So this dog-headed thing is the patron saint of travelers. The dog-headed depiction remains rare and primarily found in certain Eastern Christian iconography or manuscripts. So that's It's interesting. It's to really be like on the Eastern side, where it's like kind of like the stuff that was far east was kind of like the stuff that was a little bit on the strange side, because you think always like the Western part of things were typically the more cultured and Christianized areas.
Bro, it gets so much weirder. Okay, let me jump back into a few more weirdness for you. So again, here's Jesus talking to a bunch of dog-headed people with a sword. This guy's got a human head and a dog head. And then here's Jesus talking to some looking like Minotaur-looking people, okay, depicting Jesus going to all the creatures. Okay?
What kind of language is that?
I don't know, Elvish. It looks like
Elvish.
Looks like J.R. Tolkien language.
By the way, somebody sent me a Twitter thread that was all about Tolkien, and it was insane, dude. We have to just read through it at some point.
We gotta read it. Okay, I'm totally down. And again, the dog-headed people go all the way back to the Anunnaki, guys. These are angel Anunnaki people, and again, this is the dog-headed people being depicted alongside with the rest of the Anunnaki people. And we've also got Egyptian mummification of mummies, guys. Like they mummified the baboons and treated them like people. And we have Egyptians worshiping and catching fish. They're here catching fish, but these are baboons, right? These are baboons. These aren't dog-headed people, right? Or are they? Like, because we are mummifying them and treating them very differently. And so I'm going to bring up this one too. Scan X-ray of mummified baboons. And I'm going to show you this. It's pretty interesting imagery here. Okay. So they tell you that this is a baboon. I want you to look at these skulls though, because if I open up another tab here, so we go to dog, did I already show the chopped off humans? Yeah, we already saw that. So let's go. What is it called? Baboon skull. All right. Baboon skull. I want you to look at the skull of the baboon.
Mm-hmm.
Check out the jaw. Look how big the jaw is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Notice they've got a pretty big jaw. The head's pretty flat in the back. It's not exactly round. Okay. This is like some of them are kind of round. Some of them are a little bit more pointy. They got that flange that goes down the middle. That's a cragidal suture or cragidal crest that they call it. Okay, this is baboon skull, right? What is that? Why is the jaw not quite as big? Why is the head so much more round? Look at how round this one's head is. Like this is a baboon skull. What is that? What is that? You think that's a baboon skull?
Yeah, that looks a little different, doesn't it?
That looks quite a bit different. This doesn't look like any baboon skulls that we have today. This one looks like a baboon.
I would be
That
interested.
don't look like a baboon. That don't look like a baboon. Don't. And this is again mummified baboons, guys, that they would worship the baboons. And there's depictions of the baboons serving alongside the humans in Egyptology, guys.
I'd be
What were you gonna
curious
say?
to hear the dimensions of those skeletons.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
What if it was like 6 foot tall? I think that would change something, wouldn't it? Yeah, like I mean, how big are they?
I mean, they're not too big, I suppose.
Well, I
but
guess they might be too big, but I guess at the same time they could be. What if they're? I guess there could be little dog people too, right? I don't even know.
Yeah, the size is irrelevant. But look at this.
Well, they look smaller there. Obviously, they look only about up to the waist of a person.
Yeah, but look, they're worshiping alongside with the human. That's the point. Look, this one he's attacking, so it's almost like his dog, but he's doing something, right? Again, worshiping alongside with the human. He's in a state of worship, okay? They're in a state of worship here. Okay, these baboons, again, worshiping next to the humans.
Those ones are big.
Those are big. Yeah, those ones are big ones. And so you can see different ones and they're doing different stuff. And so like here, these are little baboon looking things. But then you've got this and it's like, what is this? And like, look at that. Look at this thing's face. Tell me that does not look like a baboon today looks, guys. That looks a little bit more unusually human-esque.
That's weird.
Bro, this is what these things are not quite what they're telling us they were. I mean, they're worshiping, okay? They're drawn on the side of the temples, like involved in like practices of worship, okay? Again, not totally normal. So, anyways, moving on. Oh, I can't show you that one. Oh, okay. Well, let me show you. It's not going to come up. Oh, bummer. Whatever. Let's see if it's got it here. Yeah, we'll skip that one. Okay. Anyways, so we've got this one. Let's see. There was an image I want to show you specifically. Is the dogs worshiping Baal? Oh, there you go. Look, dog-headed people worshiping the cow bull because the dog-headed people were Canaanites. They were the Canaanites or Canaanites, which later, obviously we've got, this dog-headed version, which is a little bit more different. That's Anubis specifically. We have, the other thing is Alexander the Great was actually known for defeating an entire army of the dog-headed people. Did you know that?
Interesting. Somebody in my comment section today mentioned too, and I think I brought this up on the podcast. We were talking about the Great Wall of China. We were discussing how the Great Wall of China faces inside of, like the place where you shoot arrows out of it faces China, and the steep side of the mountain faces China. So it's likely that the people on the other side of the wall built it. And some people have speculated that it was actually Alexander the Great and the Greeks who started building the Great Wall of China.
Well, this is funny because this is actually a depiction of Alexander the Great killing off the dog armies against a wall.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Like
that's literally like a giant wall, which kind of looks similar to the Great Wall of China with even the little furlong pieces. Like, and they're hunting them down they hunted them into the wall and then killed them.
And yeah, as Paul was mentioning, there's that weird section of the Great Wall that's actually a big circle, where it's like something was kept in, like people were kept in that circle.
Yep, to trap them.
Or maybe not people, beasts.
Beasts that Alexander the Great was hunting down. Literally, he was hunting them down.
Mm.
So, and that's what was going on. And now here is another old depiction. This is like India or something, I think is what this is.
Oh man, what about the horned pigeon people? We didn't even get into that. Oh my
That's
gosh.
another subject. Same with this guy. That's another subject. That's another subject. We'll get to the face people here soon.
That might be one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Now, this is where it gets real weird, okay? Because they're not just called Canaanites, guys. We know about the Canaanites because back in the day we called them knights. Today we call them knights, which is actually short for Canite, which came from the word Canaanite. That's why you see them all like this wearing armor because they were Canaanites. They were Canaanites, which is why the word knight has a silent K in front of it because it came from this word. So it came from the Canaanites. And like here's the great thing about this. So like when you see this, it's like you can't unsee it. It's pretty bold. So if you look up some old drawings, you'll eventually find these weird helmets. And some of them, like these old drawings here, look at this. Oh, wait a second. I thought those were just like the little plumes on the helmet. Look a little bit closer. Those are ears, bro. Those are ears sticking out of the helmet.
Yeah, in the face, and there is a lot of extra.
The room in the face.
There's a lot of area in the hood, right on that
Oh,
mask.
just wait till I show you that. But this is look at all the extra room in the old knights. They're drawing these big face things here, right? But dude, that's ears. There is ears sticking out of that helmet right there, dude. That's not just antennas or plumes. Like when you see the plumes here, some of these plumes are their ears.
Well, that is interesting. They have feathers, right? They have like feathers, where it's almost like the feathers are representation of like maybe something else, right? Like why would you put? I've seen that because I remember always seeing that with like when you see like the people who are jousting, they get like the
Mm-hmm.
long feather things sticking out. Like why would you do that? Because I mean, it makes me think of almost like the Native Americans um, in their reverence to the plumed serpent. So like you're
Yeah.
putting that out there to
Mm-hmm.
represent something else, right?
Yeah. Well, it was representing because it was hiding the fact that it was like some kind of animal thing that was coming off of it, like their ears. And so like there's more to this whole the plumes and the knights and all this stuff than you can like the rabbit hole goes pretty deep, guys. I'm just gonna
You know
say
what kind
that.
of what's kind of giving me vibes is like those crazy Rothschild parties where they all put on animal heads.
Yes, absolutely. And now let's look at here's the crazy part. Let's look at helmets. Now, if we type in old mask helmets, oh, and here by the way, here's an old drawing of a knight with his page, which by the way, he looks pretty big, or that page looks very small.
Ugh, or like it's some kind of creepy thing that's
Yeah,
like a total like a just a child.
yeah, it's very small, but look, well proportioned, tiny thing.
Oh,
Okay, so
one interesting thing to note
mhm,
uh, is
mhm,
that in the research we did with on the Gunnar Heinsohn video, so Gunnar was putting like the legends, and he was the real historical King Arthur. He was putting him before Jesus. So maybe this will
mhm,
give you a little more idea of like the time period we're talking about. So like if you have the times of Julius Caesar, Merlin, and King Arthur, that was like the century before Jesus. So
mhm.
then you really think about like how things changed afterwards, like then everything changed. But before, like the stuff that was happening in probably in medieval Europe was probably like what Brian's saying, it was off the rails crazy.
Yeah, we don't know what kind of things it was, but again, we can read Josephus's writings, and he said that if Egypt had their way, there would be no more humans left in the earth, guys. He was literally talking about a different environment, and then Josephus's last statement literally said that like there will be no more animals will not produce men. What kind of animals are producing men these days, guys? We're not seeing this kind of stuff anymore because it doesn't exist. And if you look back in time, let's look at some helmets, okay? What makes you think you could see through that helmet, bro? I sword fight, okay? I've sword fought and I've worn helmets. I've literally been in fencing and fought with these things. That is not visible. Okay. This is like supposedly for jousting and stuff or whatever. Like, this is not how you can even see out these helmets. Like, your eyes and the forehead and the anatomy of a human's face doesn't line up with the majority of these way these helmets are. Like, look at this. Okay. This is a human helmet. You've got a slit. It's a flat nose. It's flat face. This is a human helmet. Eyes, flat face, you can see out of it, right? Why does it protrude out so much on certain helmets? And the older helmets you get, the more weirdly shaped, the more protruding you get. Like this.
Yeah,
this is a
that
freaking
one.
cone face.
Yeah,
What makes you think that that's
no
for
sense.
humans?
That makes no
Okay?
sense.
No.
To make a mask like that.
Yeah, human, not like there's clearly human masks, and then there's clearly things like this. That is not human. That is not human. Okay, this is not there is human mask, and then there's things like this. Why does it protrude out so far? These are not designed like this protrusion. Look at this.
Yeah, it would be
that
like,
makes it harder to see through.
Yeah, give me less room in the front and maybe give me a little bit more eye space so I can see a little better. Yeah, because you're even like seeing, like if you're seeing through that little slit, you'd be seeing the friggin' front of the mask, right? Like you'd be having to see over the beak. You know, that would be something in your vantage point. Like that would not be good, right?
No, this is not what these helmets are not designed. Like, this is clearly human designed helmet. Okay, it's flat faced, but then you see things like this, and this stuff came from the Canaanites. Guys, these are the Canaanites. That's why they're called night. That's why there's a silent K in front of the word night. These are the Canaanites in shining armor. Okay, this is what you're looking at. This is what you're looking at. This is not for humans. This is for something else that had a protruding face. This is not beneficial to wearing a mask because it would be harder to see through.
Didn't some of the Roman gladiators masks look pretty wild too?
I don't know. I've never looked at them.
Well, you could imagine during the times of Rome. I would say that the Romans were humans. I think
the Romans are mostly human.
Yeah, I think the Romans were human, and I think they thought they were superior to everyone too.
They did.
You could imagine what kind of freak battles they had in the Colosseum, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. They probably were, because in fact, there's writings about the Romans talking about dealing with things that were not human. Like Josephus is mentioning some of them. And he was like, they dealt with them differently, the beings that were not human. They called them beasts. Okay? But like, that's what this is stemming from, guys. That's why the helmets look so weird. They don't look flat. Like, some of them were for humans. Some of them, clearly not for humans. Like, it looks that way on purpose because it wasn't for them. It's not for your face. This is for a totally different person's face. Okay? With different anatomy. Different head shapes. Okay? Like, this is what's going on. That's why there's ears sticking out of some of these helmets. Okay? And the older the helmet goes, the more protrusion of the nose mouthpiece it'll be. And so you'll see these kind of depictions like they'll make the masks look like monsters on like Japanese things with teeth, right? They're trying to depict that like we're one of those people that we're not fully human. We're the monsters. You know?
Yeah, but remember we even the podcast last night, we were discussing that in the movie The 300, they had the immortals that I believe came from the East, and when their mask got knocked off, literally it was like this kind of green face, flat nose, sharp teeth creature that was under the mask.
Yeah, that's literally what it stems from. And so we have all these stories of these genetically deformed non-human things, like Alexander the Great fought an entire army of dogmen. Okay, like that's written down in our history. You think that's a made-up story? You think everybody was like, "Oh, he fought dogmen. Let's just keep spreading this story around, guys. He's great. He's amazing. Killing out the dogmen." Unless there was some remnants of some of that you actually believed. Like, people weren't idiots back in the day. They were smarter than you are today. Okay, the people back then were smarter than everyone is today. You're not getting smarter in our society. You're actually getting dumber. Okay. If we were to take any one person right now and drop you off in the middle of the forest right now, you die. Most people in our society would just die. There's a small majority of people that are intelligent and like resourceful enough to actually survive that if we just dropped you in the middle of nowhere. You're like, where's our McDonald's? I can't eat. How am I going to eat? You
Yeah,
died.
we don't have a lot of practical knowledge. I would say that's probably true.
And real good knowledge stems from practical knowledge. Okay? Like you have to know, like as an intelligent person, you have to understand the basic things of reality to become intelligent. It actually builds. Intelligence builds. So like there's people that in the conspiracy realm, the reason why a lot of conspiracy people are just full on idiots and they don't know what they're talking about and they're moronic in a lot of their things is because they have no base knowledge. When you don't have base knowledge, you can get on wild tangents and just go all hairy, crazy directions. And like that's just what happens. But if you understand like a base perspective of reality, you can build from there. And so like I say things that sound totally crazy sometimes. But if you want to have a conversation, I will explain it to you and break it down and be like, oh yeah, actually, wait a second. By the end of our conversation, you're gonna be like, that sounded really crazy at first, but now I'm kind of wondering like maybe that's right. Yeah, because I start with a base knowledge. If you start with that and build up, it gives you a different perspective of things. But a lot of people don't have that. But like our society has gotten dumber throughout history. It's gotten way, way dumber. They weren't like dumb people like, oh, I could fish and I'm just living in my boat and I'm a little peasant. No, dude, people were intelligent. They were creating things. They were inventing things. They were developing stuff. Everyone was an inventor back then. Okay. Now it's like, I'm an inventor, but like people are like, whoa, an inventor? What's that even mean? Like I've developed products and invented things. Like that's how people were. So like you got to understand the world was so, so very, very, very different. And it wasn't like make believe fairy tales, guys. Like, who was it that said the dog people when they came to America? They said they saw dog people. I think Christopher Columbus wrote in his logs about the dog people.
It's interesting. So I did just go down a mini rabbit hole, and I was looking at gladiator masks, and I would say that from what I could tell, they were pretty much all anatomically correct. So that is kind of interesting in that, like, you wouldn't have the variance between the knights' masks. So, like, seems like who are fighting in the arenas were humans. So I think that gives more credibility that those masks are specifically because the gladiators mask, and like you think even like the what we know from like the Spartans and things like that, and they had masks that would obviously fit a person's head and face, and they would have big places for you to see and places that you want covered up, and I think that those knights masks are really sus. I think that you wouldn't wear that because that would be like, you definitely get killed if you couldn't see.
Yeah. And it comes from the word Canaanite, from Canaanite, from Canaanite. That's why there's a silent K there. And so the people of the society back then, you couldn't become a knight. You had to be born into it. Why'd you have to be born into it? Because the Canaanites were genetically different and superior in fighting for some reason because they were genetically bigger and different looking than the regular average person. If you were a Canaanite, you were a Canaanite descendant. Okay, you were a Canaanite. Okay, and the other thing you had is you had big teeth. You had canine teeth. Okay, that's what these are, guys. These are canine teeth from Canaanite bloodline. If you have canine teeth in your mouth, you have Canaanite blood. You're a Canaanite. You're from a descendant of Canaanites. Okay, this is literally from Canaanites.
Are there people who don't have canine teeth?
At this point, no, because they've all been hunted down and killed. And the only people left, in fact, Hitler actually.
Wait, I mean, you're saying the people who don't have the people who did not have canine teeth would get killed?
Yeah, they hunted down people without canine teeth and killed them eventually.
What? Why?
Hitler did that, actually. Hitler was part of that.
What? Why?
Because some of the original Jewish people did not have canine teeth. And if you look at his skulls that he was examining or using to identify with those measuring skulls, one of the things I think his criteria was like looking at people's teeth. He had a thing with looking at their teeth, and if they didn't have canine teeth, he would like experiment with you. So this is like one of the things he was doing. And so like a lot of the people that didn't have canine teeth have been basically bred out of our society. And I think there is when Sir Francis Drake got to America, this is one. Sir Francis Drake. It says Sir Francis Drake and his crew encountered indigenous tribe in Patagonia, South America, that they were described as having dog heads. The region was named after a dog-headed monster from Spanish literature. Did you know this?
No, I did not know that.
Drake was an English explorer, privateer who was part of the Sea Dogs, a group of explorers and raiders authorized by the Queen Elizabeth. But this is literally, he got to Patagonia. It was named after a dog-headed monster in Spain because they found dog-headed people when they got there. This is a history book, guys. Like, this is in your history. Sir Francis Drake and the dog-headed people. Google it, man. Like, dude, you can read what he wrote about and talked about, like in his voyages or whatever. So, like, it was not a made up thing. Like, it was just, that's what he said. Like, he said there was dog-headed people there. And so, like, and Patagonia means the land of the big feet. Like, because he saw big people there when he got there. So, like, this is what a lot of this stuff was named after. And so you got to understand, like, our history books that they've been telling us is a bunch of lies. They've been lying to us about stuff. They've been making things up. What were the Nephilim known for, by the way? For inventing metallurgy. So, of course, the Nephilim taught their practices of metallurgy to their descendants, who happened to be the Canaanites, who had a unique ability to manipulate metal to make suits of metal and suits of armor, because these dog-headed people with their armor made them more like formidable fighters. That's why they got hired as the knights, as the Canaanites. So, like, this is literally where all this stems from. Mommy. Hold on one second. Hey, sorry about this, guys. I'm doing a podcast. I'll be free in a few, but I'm not available at the moment right now.
Okay, you'll be available today, though?
Yeah, probably around. It probably won't be till like 8 o'clock, dude. You want to just call me before? Just call me at 8.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll probably come tomorrow.
All right, deal. No worries. All right, bro. Sorry about that. Okay, anyways. So was there and there's another thing about the canine teeth, guys, that you got to understand is, like, the Canaanites, there's an island. Oh, actually, JT, you told me about this. What about the island that files down? What do they do?
Oh, I was saying that I remember watching a show in actually it was the Endless Summer too, because, like, me being a surfer guy, I like all the surfing stuff, and so they did in the early '90s. They did a follow up to the first Endless Summer movie, and so they went over, I believe, to Bali, somewhere in Polynesia, and so obviously there's great waves there, and yeah, there was a guy, I think it was Tavarua, and there was one of the native guys there, and they had this kind of Hindu kind of ceremony where they file their teeth down flat.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, that sounds like that would suck so bad. Oh man, that would just, I mean, I hate going to the dentist. Can you imagine filing your teeth with a metal file?
But bro, like, where do you think that practice came from, though? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
Right?
I guess, well, you know, it was interesting. I remember what the guy said in the movie. He said, you either do it when you're alive or they do it when you die. But they'll do it. You're getting buried with flat teeth.
What a weird, strange behavior and a strange thing. Cause like people understand, like, they believe that the canine teeth were evil. And so there's a lot to this. We're going to do a second part on canine teeth, and I'm going to talk about dogmen. And we're going to talk about the dogmen in today's society in connection to Bigfoot and stuff and all kinds of stuff. So there will be another episode on this. But I want you guys to check this out. Canine teeth shrank in human ancestors at least 4.5 million years ago. New Science. This is like all about the canine teeth. Now, the very fascinating thing I want to show you guys about canine teeth is the older skeletons are, the lack of canine teeth are more prevalent. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so older skeletons don't have canine teeth. And another thing that doesn't have canine teeth, get this. Wait for it. Conehead skulls, bro. They don't got canine teeth.
Well, wouldn't that actually be the opposite though? Because you think the Nephilim skulls would have?
I know. I know exactly what you mean, but here's the weird part. The cone-headed skulls, they lack canine teeth. And the weird part is like, look, their teeth are straight, and they don't have the canine teeth. Look, it's molars.
Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
So it's very fascinating. And when you see it, look, where's the canine teeth, bro? They're lacking the canine teeth. So when you look at these old skeletons of these conehead individuals, these guys were not hybridized with animals. These guys were hybridized only with humans and angels. They were never hybridized with animals. And that's why they don't have the canine teeth. And so that's the difference between these skulls and the Nephilim animal mixed skulls. So isn't this fascinating though? Like the lack of the presence of the canine teeth. And the older the skeletons, by the way, the lack of presence of canine teeth. So look at how old the skeletons are. And to the point where they're like, oh, our canine teeth shrink in our human ancestors. Oh, yeah. Look, this is a weird one. Look at the snaggle tooth on this guy. I don't even know what's going on here.
Yeah, that's
deformed
sloth.
Skull. What is that?
Yeah, that looks like they got sloth from the Goonies.
Dude, what is going on here? Is that even real? I don't know if that's real. It looks fake.
Yeah, that's
this looks too fake looking, but look at that snaggle
tough
tooth.
To find sunglasses if your eyes look like that.
But yeah, dude. So the fascinating part is that, and you know who else doesn't have canine teeth? Cro-Magnon man. Cro-Magnon skulls. They also tend to lack the presence of canine teeth. Isn't that funny? So you're like, huh, that's strange, right? Their teeth are also more perfect, and they lack the presence of the canine teeth. Their teeth, if you can find them with teeth, but their teeth will be like perfectly like in a line. They won't have like they'll be more straight. So like our teeth today, if you have jacked up teeth today, I'm gonna tell you right now, probably some angelic Nephilim hybridization going on there. There's other skulls and other people that lack it. I think what is the Neanderthal skull teeth. Let's see. I'm pretty sure they don't have canine teeth either. Look, check it out. So the Neanderthal skulls also lack canine teeth.
Weird.
Isn't that funny? So the skulls, when you see this stuff, the older the skull, the bigger the skull, the lacking of presence of canine teeth, because they're more technically more human angel hybridization is going on here. And so when you see this kind of stuff, like that's really what's going on. And so the humans, though, we end up today, we have so much of the Canaanite blood, which is dog DNA, mixed into our genome sequencing. And I'm going to do a whole episode next soon on blood types, by the way, because we're going to talk about that. Bigfoot blood types. Let me write this down. I'm going to make sure we know. Bigfoot next
week.
Bigfoot, yep. And then blood types, because people want to know about the blood types, and I've been holding back.
Do you want me to anymore? You want me to share my my dog people stuff that I got? I've only got really on one thing.
Tell me your dog people stuff.
Okay, so it was interesting. I've been dipping my toe in the Tolkien universe, looking for little clues of things. And so I watched this interesting video from Nerd of the Rings. He's got a really big YouTube channel talking about.
Dude, this guy sounds great.
No, he's good. Like I said, it's so much. And so he had about a 45-minute video about like the history of Sauron. And there was a time where Sauron created werewolves. And so what he did is he my gosh. He put he introduced demons into dogs, and that created werewolves. And eventually he became a werewolf at one point. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's that.
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to send you the clip of like what they were talking about that, because I was like, that's really interesting is like that there was no werewolves before him.
Wow, that is so indicative of Nephilim offspring hybridization. That's literally what's going on. Wow.
Yeah, because
Wow.
it's interesting. Well, so like in the Tolkien universe, there's like a first age, there's a second age, and there's a third age. And so, like, obviously, by the time I think the Lord of the Rings movies are in the third age, so there's really no werewolves. But during the second age is when all the werewolves were.
What?
Yeah,
Dude, I want to talk to this guy. We got to get Nerd of the Rings on. We got to get him on
it would be
somehow.
interesting to see like just a straight up Tolkien nerd. Like, what would he like? I don't. I'm just kind of. I wouldn't know where to begin. Like to ask.
I would
him
know.
questions.
I know what to ask. I know exactly what to ask. I want to talk to him.
Well, I mean,
Dude,
obviously, yeah. I mean, if we could get him on the podcast, I mean, I would love to pick his brain too. There's a few other
tell him
people
about the stories of Nephilim, and or he'll tell us the stories about J.R. Tolkien, and then we'll just be like, okay, well, that comes from this.
You know, it's interesting. I actually just when I was on YouTube this morning, and I didn't watch the video, but I saw that Gary Wayne was talking about Tolkien. There was like there was some kind of video he was on a podcast, and he was talking about Tolkien. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's kind of like this is something that's just a lot of people are maybe putting some of these pieces together.
Yeah, Gary Wayne's gone down the Tolkien rabbit hole, I think, before, because I've talked to them a little bit about it, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, Tolkien's an occultist. So he told me when we were talking. I don't know if it was on a podcast.
Well, it's just it's so deep. But I was saying, like, if you look at that thread, like the stuff that they said that that Tolkien didn't write any of his books until he was 60 years old.
That's pretty peculiar.
Yeah, there's a lot of really weird things about like his story where he was a linguist and then he created languages. He learned to speak 15 languages. Oh, like it sort of sounds made up, like lots of the stuff. I'm not saying. I'm just saying like it's some of it is really hard to comprehend. But again, when you start to look at the lore and all the different detailed stories about each age and all the diverse characters and places, it's really hard to imagine that came from one person's imagination.
Yeah, it's pretty elaborate. It's pretty interesting. I'm definitely excited. I'm totally. We got to talk to this Nerd of the Rings guy.
We totally. Yeah, I know. I really I do think that there's a lot there. It's kind of like
if he'll be willing to talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course.
He's gonna be like, these crazy Christians want to talk to me.
They think you know what? Maybe, just maybe, somebody like that would actually be really interested to hear how much of this stuff could be real.
You know, that would be cool because the Unts, I can't wait to talk about the Unts because he doesn't even know. Like the Unts, the tree people come from the word giant, which is a total, there's so much to it.
What about, I want to say in the book of Samuel, maybe, I think it's in 2 Samuel. I'm not sure. It's one of the Samuels, is that it mentions that like the Force kills more people than David and their army does. Because like there's like a sound that's going through the trees, and it's like it literally says that the Force kills more people.
Wasn't it?
It doesn't really say it. It almost makes it sound like the forest killed the people.
Like the trees just came to life.
Yeah,
and, eating people.
It sounds something like that. I don't want to speak too out of turn without quoting it, but I do remember that there's a really curious verse about like there's often stories in the Bible where like the Israelites win, but then it makes it clear like it wasn't them who killed the people. Remember, like hail comes down from heaven and things like that.
Yeah.
Like hail as big as boulders comes down and kills the other armies, and the angel of the Lord is literally fighting for them.
That's I totally know what you mean. Let me show one more thing. Let me see real quick. I wanted to show this.
Okay, here I got the verse, Brian. Here it says. Okay, so it said, this is Samuel, 2 Samuel, chapter 18, starting with verse 6. So the army went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was fought in the forest of Ephraim. And the men of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David, and the loss there was great on that day, 20,000 men. The battle spread all over the face of all the country. The forest devoured more people that day than the sword. What does that mean? The forest devoured more people than the sword did?
That's pretty strange.
That's a little bit, that's interesting, right? Like, what does that mean? It does kind of imply there's something more than it seemed happened that day.
Okay, one last thing I'm going to show you, because people, I'm sure, are going to be like, well, what does it mean that the old skulls didn't have teeth? Okay, here's a depiction of the little red man. What's his with the little mustache man? And the little mustache man is, notice he is afraid of being chomped by this skull here, right? And the little mustache man is gnawing on bones. Notice they depict him really hairy looking, right? And then I want to show you this. The little mustache man is here again depicted as like a gorilla looking man thing. There was a lot to do with the mustache men and gorillas, by the way. There is a whole lot of drawings. Let's see. Gorilla. So this is something that was a thing back in the day. They were depicting mustache men and their people as gorillas.
Do you think it was the Jewish people were like saying like that they are the ones with the flat teeth, and the ones that the bad Germans were the ones that were animalistic?
You know, they made it look that way, but check, this is where it gets really interesting. Look, see, he was measuring the skulls. This is what he was doing, like measuring the skulls and trying to see the differences between all the people and their nose. And they were doing this type of measurement because they were trying to find people who had specific anatomy. Look at this. They were looking for this specific anatomy and the difference between the people. And so they were looking and measuring the skull anatomy to determine what type of person you were, what genetic disparity you had, what kind of thing that you had, and they would use it to experiment on you because they believed that the certain people had a race of people. But look, then this is a Jewish skull of one of the people that they were like, this is a normal human, and how to identify it, and here's the parts of the human. But this person lacks canine teeth. Like the canine teeth here are very, very broken, but they're very, if they're even there at all, visible. And when you look at the old measuring skulls, they also lack canine teeth, bro. Look at this. Again, lacking canine teeth.
We need to do a whole episode on the Germans from the 30s.
Yeah, and so these little German dudes were checking, they were measuring things, but determining based on what you were, based on the way that your skull looked, measurements and certain things to determine what type of human you were. And so that way they could experiment on you because they were looking for a type of human specifically whose mouth protruded out further like this, whose jaw protruded out further, because they were creating a race of whatever people. And they were looking for skulls that lacked the presence of canine teeth is one of these things that they were, it appears that they were targeting for. And so, this is one of the things they're going for. Like, this is what they were exploring about. And so anyways, that is the episode for today. And you guys can do some digging. And I'll break down the bloodlines here very soon. So, because I know everybody wants to know what's HR negative blood and all that stuff. And guys, that's coming up. Hang on to your horses. But for right now, if you have canine teeth in your mouth, you're probably a Canaanite, or you at least have some Canaanite connection blood. And that's why there's tribes that file down their canine teeth and then we're going to talk about vampires, guys, and where that stems from also, because it's not what you think it is. It's a little bit different. It's quite possibly Vlad the Impaler was a Catholic Christian murdering people, and there's a reason, and we'll get into that, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for the next few episodes. Hang on. Tell people about this, by the way, please, guys, and subscribe. And tell everybody, tell your friends so we can talk about this more, so I can grow this channel, because this is some crazy conspiracy stuff that people are wanting to know, but there's no one breaking this down, I feel like. So I'm doing it. We're getting to the genetics of us all, and we're going to be exposing it. Any final thoughts or things you wanted to say, JT?
I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, obviously my movie references are escaping me right now. But yeah, there'll be more. I'll think of more things later. But yeah, really interesting. I think we do need to do a little bit more. Maybe we can group the werewolf dog people into the Bigfoot episode of those kind of cryptids, because I think it would be more to kind of like focus on the spooky paranormal encounters with people having their own episodes with specifically the dog man, because that is a thing that kind of trips me out, that like you think that Bigfoot is the weird hairy thing that's in the woods, but there's lots of people in North America that talk about dogmen.
Bro, and that's going to be a whole nother episode, and we'll be talking about Anubis and the Dogman and people that have had Bigfoot encounters and all that, because that's a whole nother demonic encounter thing and Nephilim-esque connected thing. But we're going to be talking about that next. Maybe not next, but I don't know what's next. We'll see what the Lord reveals us to.
Sounds
all right,
good.
guys. Thanks for joining us. It was awesome. Talk to you later.
God bless.
Bye.